In my video about craft room organization, I mentioned that I was still in the process of reworking the way I store my supplies. And I also mentioned that my pens and markers in particular needed additional storage. So today, I'm going to show you my process in organizing those and let you see how they ended up looking when it was all done. Basically, because I've been doing a lot more journaling lately, my collection of writing supplies has grown quite a bit since I made this Hogwarts-shaped desk organizer here on my channel. I am actually still using this because I love it. I think it's one of my favorite things I've ever made, and it just needed a little bit of the heat taken off of it. So that's what the new setup is supposed to do. If you want to learn how to make one of these, I will link to it in a card above and in the video description below. Here is a sped up look at how I reorganized my favorite pens and markers. So I bought these clear stackable cubes from Deflecto. This one is open and it has an X pattern, so I thought that my longer pens that don't fit in closed drawers would be good for that one. The other two that I got have drawers. One has 2 larger drawers and one has 4 little ones. And so the way that I approached this entire process was by taking out all of the pens that I use most often and laying them out on my table. I'm hoping to fix 2 problems with this new arrangement. The first one is that all of the pen cases and cups and organizers that I was using before were all completely full. So anytime I got new pens, I didn't really have a place to put them. And so a lot of my pens ended up just kind of all over my desk. Not really very helpful when I'm trying to keep things clean and organized. Second problem, that they weren't really that well organized, so it was hard to find a specific pen. And so I went into this hoping that I could start out by organizing the pens that I do have, and also moving the ones that I don't use super often out of the way. So once they were all laid out, I started to organize my pens into categories, and I hadn't quite decided ahead of time what those categories were. I hope that this exercise would allow me to figure that out as I went along. The first is the easiest, which are these zebra mild liners. I have a whole lot of them. They're easy to spot, and they obviously need to be stored together. So I just pulled them all out of the pile and moved them away. I recently got these Tombow twin tones, just moving the box out of the way. I'm going to eventually empty them out of there once they have spot. And so I'm now looking for pencils. They can all go together. I also grouped together some of my sparkly metallic gel pens, which I don't have too many of those. Those will probably end up getting grouped with another category. I also have these Tombow dual brush pens. Those are really long, so I particularly wanted that X-shaped cube to fit those. And then I just kind of continued on in this fashion, keeping things grouped into piles, taking note of the size of the piles, and kind of considering where they could go on those different cubes. And now this is looking pretty good. I'm pretty happy with the size of the piles and the way they're organized, at least for right now. And so my next step is to get out those cubes and start putting things into different drawers to see how I like to arrange them and which pile should go where. So first I set up this cube that has 4 smaller drawers on it. I pulled out the little connector piece from this drawer, and I approached this by grabbing the smallest piles and putting them in this one. So in my first small drawer, I've got black felt tip pens, which I use for drawing and lettering and things like that, but I do have a lot of the black ones, so I kept those in their own drawer. I also have a drawer for brush pens. I don't have very many of these, and these are small enough to fit in, unlike the Tombows. And then I have a small drawer full of pencils, pretty much just mechanical pencils in this drawer because that's what I like to use. And then for the last drawer in this cube, I put in black gel pens. These are what I use most often, so it's nice to grab them and not have to rummage through a bunch of colors to find the ones I need. And that's how that cube looks, pretty much full. I may adjust this as we go, but we'll see. It's a good place to start. And then, because I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do for the rest of it, I just pulled out the remaining 2 cubes and started putting things in random compartments and seeing what I liked and moving things around as I went along. I ended up deciding to put all of my colorful but solid colored gel pens into the wider drawer on this cube, but putting my few sparkly metallic gel pens in with the black ones, since I feel like it'll be easy to find those in that drawer and way easier than it would be to rummage through all those colorful ones. In the cube with the X shape across it, I ended up putting my Zebra mild liners in their own compartment. The Tombow dual brush pens are in their own compartment. I have a compartment for colorful felt tip pens, and you may also notice that some of my pens are disappearing. That's because those are some ones that I don't use as often, and I decided to store those in a different container off of my desk. And as much as it hurts me to break up the pretty rainbow in the twin tone pastel set, I'm not using these super often when they're in the box. They're hard to grab, so they need to go into their own compartment as well. So I kind of ended up jumping into a project within a project. This is something I'd been putting off for a while, but there ended up being a ton of room in the compartment for colorful felt tip pens. And I have this enormous set of Arteza pens that they sent me for free. And I had been meaning to go through and swatch them all. My main complaint with this set is that the caps are not usually the same color as the ink. That's a common thing, but I feel like they're drastically off in this set in particular. So I went through and swatched them all, and I put aside the ones that were the most predictable because those are the ones that I'm the least annoyed to use. It's worth mentioning that I do really like these pens, and there is so much variety in the colors, but it's just very frustrating to go through a bunch of pens and have them be the wrong color. So I ended up with a lot of them that are just fine and that look just like the colors on the caps. And so I'm glad that I went through and did this. It took me a while, but it's done now. These are the colors I ended up keeping for now. The rest I'm going to put aside, and if I need one of those other ones, it'll just be not quite as accessible to me. So once I was happy with the way that all of my pens were arranged inside the cubes, I had to figure out how I wanted to arrange the cubes themselves along with the other stuff that I usually keep on my desk. Now, I like the way my desk looks, but it always gets really messy really quickly, and so I knew I needed a new solution for the way to keep this organized. I pretty much just set this up in as many different ways as I could think of and kept going until I was really happy with the way that it looked. But I also could eventually buy more of these cubes if I end up with a larger collection of pens and markers, and then I can stack them up higher if I wanted to. Nice to have the option. And this is the final setup that I settled on. You may notice that one of the drawers is empty. I did that on purpose because I'm hoping to eventually buy more pens and I want to leave space for them. There is a ton of room for more pens and markers in this setup, which is really great. I tend to acquire a fair amount of those, so this way I have a place to put them right away and they don't get messy immediately. So in here I have my solid colored gel pens, mostly really, really thin ones, because that's what I like. In here I have my mostly black felt tip pens that I use for drawing and lettering. Here are my most commonly used brush pens. Most of them are black, but I have a couple other colors mixed in there. This drawer has all of my mechanical pencils. In this drawer, I have my black gel pens as well as a couple of shimmery and metallic and one white gel pen. These are the ones that I use most often, so I figured I'd put them in a drawer where I'm not going to lose them super easily. Maybe when I acquire more of those, I can move them into the wider drawer on the top of the other cube. Just to give you a little tour of the other things on my desk, I've got this 3-tiered caddy where I keep a bunch of my most commonly used sewing supplies. I have this mug with some sewing tools in it. I have a few pin cushions. I actually made these in a DIY on my channel. I've got my tiny bullet journal where I keep my constant to-do list. And I've also got this holster where I keep my scissors that I use most often. And then off to the side over here, I have this 3-tiered cart where I keep more supplies that I can very easily grab, but I don't have to take up space on my desk with them, which is really nice. And just to show you what an ongoing process this has been, minutes after finishing filming this video, I decided I didn't like the way that I had arranged this X-shaped cube, so I moved a couple of things around in here. I moved my Tombow dual brush pens over on the left side of it, I moved my Tombow twin tones over on the right side of it, and I think this is probably what I'm gonna settle on, at least for a while. It looks so much better. I am really happy with it. One thing I can tell you right now that I love about this setup is that there is still plenty of space for new pens and markers. So even if I buy a whole bunch more supplies, I won't need to reorganize this anytime soon. This should last me a good long while. I'm very happy with the way this turned out. That corner of my desk tends to get cluttered pretty quickly, especially with pens and markers that I use really often. So I'm hoping that having it set up in such a cute and functional way will help discourage that from happening in the future. As far as the rest of my craft room goes, I still have a few tasks that I need to do before it's totally cleaned up. But I am hoping to do an updated tour of the whole room once I feel comfortable sharing it with you. Make sure you're subscribed to my channel if you want to see that, and don't forget to click the notification bell so you don't miss any future videos. One thing that I am still trying to figure out is what to put on the blank wall that's right next to my desk. Whether it's some kind of decorative craft storage or art, or maybe even one of those metal wall grids that you can clip photos to, I'd love to hear your input. Leave me a comment below telling me what I should hang up on this wall that I see all the time but is just outside of the view of my camera. Anyway, that's all for now. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.